All right, so that story by my colleague George Maringa leads us to an interview this morning with the National Assembly Minority Leader John Mbadi, who's also Suba Member of Parliament. And good morning, Honorable Mbadi. Thank you so much for joining us here on KTN News Center this morning.
Thank you,
so,
Brenda.
We are saying 38 county assemblies have given the green light for Kenyans to go for a referendum. So when do we expect the BBI bill to be introduced on the floor of the House?
Thank you, Brenda. First of all, allow me to take this opportunity to congratulate the 38 county assemblies across the country, and which has actually cut across the country, literally, for approving this very important bill and approving it in record time and actually earlier than expected. And I think this is a clear message that Kenyans are interested in seeing through this process. Now, coming back to your question, once the assemblies have passed the bill, what the law says, or the Constitution under Article 257, that is amendment of the Constitution through popular initiative, it is therefore now expected that the county assembly speakers would individually write to the two speakers of parliament, that is the National Assembly and the Senate, informing them of the resolution of their various assemblies. It is expected that this would come anytime, possibly this week, if they have not started arriving yet. And once the speakers determine that they have the requisite number, that is at least 24 county assemblies approving the bill, then the speakers would make a communication to Parliament, informing Parliament that now the bill is with Parliament, and then the Speaker would approve that the bill be tabled by Justice and Legal Affairs Committee in both houses. And actually, at the moment, we are already in discussion, very serious discussion between the two houses, that we have joint meetings between our two committees of Justice and Legal Affairs, that is the National Assembly and the Senate, so that they can do one report to be introduced in both houses. So the bill is going to be introduced in both houses for first reading. I want to be clear here, Brenda, to explain to our listeners and viewers that the wordings used under Article 257 for County Assembly and the Parliament are different. For County Assembly, it talks about approval of the bill, that the bill would be approved by the two assemblies, by the county assemblies, meaning that it is through a vote. A motion is brought and approval is granted. But in Parliament, it talks about passage. Passing the bill means the bill has to go through the normal process of discharging the bill.
Honorable Mbadi, I was about to ask you about the simultaneous introduction of the bill on both houses, because the parliamentary procedures requires 90 days in terms of the introduction of the bill and the passage. So that means if the bill is to be tabled on the floor of both houses, it will require about 180 days. So I'd wanted to know, and probably if you'd like to tell Kenyans, what both houses are going to do, speakers of both houses are going to do to ensure that the bill is introduced at the same time, both at the National Assembly and the Senate Assembly.
I want to make it clear that the passage of a constitution through, the bill introduced into Parliament through popular initiative does not require the 90-day period. That is a parliamentary initiative. If a member of Parliament introduces a bill into Parliament for amending the Constitution, then that requires the 90 days. The reasoning is very simple, that this is a bill that is introduced by a member and therefore does not enjoy public support yet, or it has not been determined that it enjoys public support, and therefore you require 90 days for the people of Kenya to engage with it. Different from a bill that is introduced through popular initiative, because it comes from the people. And so our standing orders does not require the 90 days. So I think that should come out very clearly. Secondly, the Constitution talks about a bill being introduced in one house and then once concluded goes to the next house. But there is nothing in law that stops a bill from being debated simultaneously. That's the way I understand the law. It can be introduced in both houses, and if we concur with the bill in the same format, then it progresses to the next level. And of course, you know, a constitutional amendment is never amended in Parliament. So, so it's either passed or not passed.
So, Honorable Mbadi, yes, we're talking about counties giving a green light for referendum. And we all know that the final stop is with the Wananchi on that day of the referendum. And there is an argument that that decision to have the bill go to the House and have members of Parliament have a discussion for 3 weeks is irrelevant because the buck stops with Wananchi.
No, I want to dissuade again our viewers from taking that line of thinking. You know, if you read the text of Article 257, the role of Parliament is not just ceremonial. It is only ceremonial if, let me be very clear here. It says that if you read Article 257(8), Parliament through majority of members, meaning in the National Assembly it is 175 and in the Senate it's at least 34. If we pass it and the provisions of the bill does not touch on Article 255, then you don't have to take it to a referendum, meaning Parliament has the final say, and it goes to the President for assent. Only when it touches on the provisions of Article 255, then now it requires a referendum. The only thing that is clear, again, is if it is through popular initiative, then Parliament cannot stop the process. Parliament would debate it, pass it, but even if either house does not pass it or both houses fail to pass it, it will still go to a referendum. So you cannot just say that the role of Parliament is just ceremonial. It is not ceremonial, but it cannot stop a bill which has been initiated through
Honorable Mbadi,
initiative.
we saw the county assemblies began the process of that BBI in terms of public participation, debate, and rejecting or approving. Immediately IEBC said that they had so far cleared 1 million signatures. So that process began even before IEBC finished verification of the signatures. So are we likely to see the National Assembly follow suit? Because not all the counties have submitted their feedback to Parliament.
So, Brenda, it should be noted that just like the County Assemblies acted before the conclusion of verification of signatures, there is no law that requires the County Assembly to wait for the conclusion of verification of signatures. What the law says or states is that IBC will communicate to the County Assemblies. The moment they get that communication from IBC, it is understood that IBC is satisfied that the threshold of 1 million has already been attained. And so the other verification is just academic exercise. Now again, for Parliament, it talks of at least 24 counties. The moment Parliament is seized of communication from 24 counties, at least 24 counties approving the bill or the draft bill, then there is no requirement on the part of Parliament to wait for all the 47 counties to communicate. In fact, the law even envisages that some counties may not even communicate, in which case it would be assumed that they have rejected. So the moment Parliament is seized of communication from at least 24 speakers of county assemblies approving the bill, the National Assembly and the Senate are at liberty to proceed with the bill.
All right. So, Honorable Mbadi, I believe you will also see the graphics that will be appearing on our screens right now. And I've used that graphics is a representation of how counties voted. 38 county assemblies voted in favor of the Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill 2020. I'll get to that question.
Unfortunately, I'm not able to see, but I would imagine it. So just go ahead.
All right. Yes. Okay. So we have 38 county assemblies that have actually passed that bill. We have 8 of them that are yet to conduct public participation, hold a debate, and make that crucial decision. Then we only have 1 county assembly, that is Baringo, that has decided to pass that bill. And so we have the likes of Siaya, Vihiga, Nairobi. We have Tana River, and that have actually passed that bill. Those are the 38 county assemblies. Then you only have 1 that has rejected it. So what you're seeing on your map, on the map right now, the green represents the 38 that have passed and 1 that has not passed. And so, Honorable Mbadi, unlike the county assemblies where the Constitution has given 90 days to conduct public participation, debate, pass or reject the bill, after that, there are no constitutional deadlines that have been put in place. Do you see a loophole where the executive might attempt to marshal Parliament to force both floors of the House to pass the bill with dictated timelines?
No, really. Yes, I agree that there is a gap in law in the Constitution, which we are trying to fill right now by passing the referendum law. The referendum bill has just passed through the second reading, but that may be late for the process we are in today. That we need to have also timelines for Parliament. In fact, we may not have a problem with the current the current bill, but in future you may have a problem because Parliament may, I actually look at the worst case scenario where Parliament may inordinately and unreasonably delay the exercise for nothing or the introduction of the bill in the National Assembly and the Senate. Coming back to your question of whether the executive will bulldoze Parliament, I don't think so. I think Parliament is also conscious to the fact that we need to dispose of this exercise as fast as we can. The people of Kenya, I think, want to move on, and this exercise is not to be delayed any further. So Parliament will bring forward this bill for debate as fast as our rules and procedures dictate. But that does not mean that we will be pushed by the executive. I don't think so.
But Honorable Mbadi, we have to have, we have to come to the reality that we don't have a law on referendum. So when do we expect the referendum bill to be passed into law? And when will it be implemented in terms of the forthcoming referendum? Will it be applied on the forthcoming referendum?
I don't think. We have held referenda in this country previously. We have had two, at least the ones that I can remember, the 2005 and 2010, without the referendum bill, so the referendum law. Referendum law is just supposed to make things more tidy, but it does not mean that referendum cannot be conducted in this country without the referendum law. The Constitution is sufficient enough, and we know how to conduct referendum. And the Constitution spells out the threshold, the minimum threshold that is required. So this law it is not a prerequisite for the referendum that we are facing. So it is also not correct to imagine that without this law in place that we cannot proceed with the process. However, it would be more tidy if we had the law in place. I foresee, I anticipate that by early April we will have the referendum law passed and assented to, looking at the timelines. But I cannot. But I also don't want Kenyans to rush the process of legislating the referendum law. Remember, when we rushed the legislation on IBC law in 2000 and before the last general election, it came back to haunt us. So I think if we find it is important to take our time to pass the bill, let us do so, because there is nothing that would stop a referendum in this country because that bill has not been passed or assented into law.
All right. So from Parliament, where is the next stop?
The next stop, as I mentioned, is that the two speakers will agree. I hope they agree quickly. But the moment they receive the moment they receive approval from at least 24 counties, then the bill should be introduced in the two houses. And we are anticipating that the two houses will have joint committee, as I said, to produce a joint report. Now, once that is done, then the normal debate in the second reading will follow, and then I'm sure we will prioritize it. I sit in the House Business Committee of the National Assembly. We will definitely prioritize the debates on this bill and have the committee also deal with it quickly and have the committee of the whole House and pass it to the President. And the President now will refer it to IBC because some of the provisions touch on Article 255 of the Constitution.
So we need to wind up this conversation. I'll just request the Director for a minute just to get this answer from you. How long will it take the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission to frame the question for Kenyans?
Those are some of the things that we are trying to clarify in law because it's not very, very, very clear. But my view is that this thing has been debated for far too long, and the moment that the bill will come from the president, because the president will refer it to IEBC, and if the cases will have been dealt with, you remember there are some cases in court which are challenging the legality of the process and actually seeking that IEBC should not be allowed to conduct a referendum. Now, if all those will be dealt with and disposed of, then I think IEBC don't have to take time. In fact, even a week is enough to frame a question. Why do you need so long a long time to just frame a referendum question?
All right. Asante sana, Honorable John Mbadi, leader of the minority party in the National Assembly, also Suba Member of Parliament, for talking to us about what is the next move after the 38 county assemblies passed the BBI bill. So far, you're up to date with what is making the headlines in the country.